Yeah, the film is about a character named Samuel Murphy who gets incarcerated and is in danger of losing his daughter into the foster care system in 1933 Great Depression era Oregon. Once he's incarcerated, he has very little hope of getting his daughter back, so he gets a deal from the warden of the prison camp, played by Russell Crowe, to do a deal that may get him out of jail, may be dirty, may not, to smuggle some gold across the wilderness for 5 days, and that's when our action and adventure film begins.
What were some of the kind of influences you were thinking about when you were working on this and thinking about making it?
Shelby, Ethan, and I sat down for a good few weekends together, and we sort of started dreaming up the movie from characters that Ethan was really, sort of investing into, and films that inspired us from the 60s and 70s, early 80s, that were films that weren't a typical action film, but more an adventure film, and something that, as Ethan was working on his Paul Newman documentary, was sort of inspiring him. And so we looked at movies like Sorcerer. We looked at Sometimes a Great Notion. We looked at Cool Hand Luke, things along those. And we really tried to sort of replicate not only the style of filmmaking, but also the spirit of that filmmaking as well.
Ethan, tell us about your journey to connecting with Padraic in this project, and if you can expand on some of what Padraic said about what you were thinking about.
This film was born in a totally unique way. I mean, Padraic and I had worked on a show called The Good Lord Bird together. We had this amazing time, and when it was over, we didn't really want it to be over. And thought, well, let's make a movie together. And Padraic had this idea of the weight together, and he has an amazing mind about movies, and I really was excited to work with him because the way that he cuts a movie in his head and thinks about movies in the language of cinema, I knew he would make a phenomenal movie, and he just brought that leadership to the whole. The magic of movies is all about a mysterious word called tone. Movies the reality of scenes people talk about, but what's the tone of the movie? What's the mood of the movie? What's the music of the movie? When that's right, everything falls into place. And when it's wrong, nothing works.
Tell me about connecting with your co-stars, including, of course, Russell Crowe. I really like the tension between you and Clancy. How did you build that? Did you deliberately not meet? How did you get that kind of connection?
Well, I don't know. Russell Crowe the power of his imagination is so intense that you don't need to work very hard, because it's like when you play with somebody who's that great, it's difficult not to play well, because he won't let it be that. And so I don't know what's deliberate and what's conscious and what's unconscious. He's so experienced and so good at what he does. We did the first week of shooting was all his scenes, and we were just talking about how it really set the bar for what was expected of all of us and for the kind of movie and the level of excellence we were chasing. When you get a chance with an independent movie, it's just, you have a shot, and you have a few days, and you got to take your shot, and you got to all be pursuing the same dream. And that's my favorite thing about ensemble acting, is that we get to invite each other and disappear. We get to disappear into a collective imagination. And that's, even when we were first talking about it, when I started, I did a lot. So when I started acting, it was a lot of ensemble acting, and I miss it. Groups together, people interacting. Loved it.
Julia, Padraic has said that he only really thought of you for this role. Who was she to you, and how did you talk about this character with Padraic and Ethan?
It started with a lot of conversations with Patty and also with Shelby, the writer. And we got on the same page about her backstory and a sense of how she arrived at this moment where she is when we first meet her, what drives her, the sort of basic things. And then more so than on other projects I've done, she sort of came together through the process of filming and through pre-production, like being around everybody and feeling the world that she was in and how she would sort of respond to things, and physicality started to pop up. But it was a very organic process that happened spontaneously in a collaborative way. I think that's how I would say it. This experience, more than any I've ever had, felt like a theater troupe, and like just being around each other was a rehearsal. And you find the dynamics, and you find the thing that somebody does with their face that makes you feel a certain way, and then you can kind of identify it and it becomes character. These little tiny things, but yeah, it was very collaborative.
Sam, so I understand you shot in Germany, right? So tell us about that experience for you and something that's like a takeaway from making this film that you'll keep with you.
It was great filming in Germany. We started off in Munich. I came over for a week for pre-production and we had a read-through. And then I was away for the week that Russell was there. Unfortunately, didn't get to work with Russel. Is that a spoiler? Can I say that? That's all right. Yeah, it was just great. We've been talking about, or we've been asked about kind of challenges with the film physically and otherwise, but mostly physically. And for me, I've found through my career, the biggest challenge has always been to kind of elevate quite often writing that's not quite up to scratch. And so I didn't feel like it was a challenge at all with this. You've got the personal challenges, sure, of trying to kind of up your game to match the level that's, set out by the other actors. But I've just felt held in that the whole time. It was supported by this. Pat's talked about it being, it felt like a family on set. It was really great. It was a terrible day that, when we picture wrapped and we had to stop filming because I just could have carried on forever. It was great. But Germany, yeah, it was great being Germany. We had a lot of the time we had
schnitzel.
off. So many schnitzels. We just rode around on bikes in the mountains and stuff on our days off.
But I love when a script works. I love going to set where you don't have to fix anything. You just have to rises. And all of our parts, in a lot of ways, were really simple. The movies, what's the strength of the movies? It's absolute commitment to simplicity. And so we had to match that, but it worked. We just had to arrive and let it work. But it didn't require a lot of don't pay attention to these 5 lines.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Austin, how did you find the character of Rankin and develop him in this kind of theatre troupe type environment that you guys are talking about? What was that like?
Well, I just tried to make it as simple as possible. He was sort of this stunted human being. He had been in and out of jail since me and Pat discussed it since he was 13. So I kind of pictured him almost like this little kid who just kind of wanted to get in trouble and had temper tantrums and then I read about, prison psychology in the 30s and took stuff from there. But yeah, I just tried to make it as simple as possible, really. Yeah.
What did you learn about prisoner psychology in the 1930s? That's interesting.
Well, I learned a lot, not having a woman there and then finally being around a woman, and that talking was therapy for him. So he was always talking, always wanted to get stuff out. And he was sort of, when you it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, for someone who's been in prison that long. They sort of rely on what they're used to. So then when he's out in the wilderness, it's a totally new experience. And I sort of let that try and affect him as well.
Well, I'm being told we're out of time. These are very short interviews, but I really appreciate you all coming in. Congratulations on the film. Have a wonderful Sundance.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you.